What's up everyone, Jason Turley here, back with another video. We're doing TryHackMe today because we haven't done it, we haven't touched it in a while. We haven't done a lot of pen testy kind of stuff. We've been more so focused on like binary exploitation, reverse engineering, and like PicoCTF and pointable.kr. But quick shout out to the advent of cyber 2023 that TryHackMe currently has going on. If you've never done it, it's a free very beginner friendly introduction to different concepts in cybersecurity, and they do have prizes, which is super cool. So as you solve challenges, it enters you in a raffle, and every time you so essentially the more challenges you solve, the more raffle tickets you get, and you have the opportunity to win a lot of these prizes. They're giving away Steam Decks, Apple AirPods, as well as certification attempts, so on and so forth. So there's a lot going on. Mandatory disclaimer, this is not a sponsorship. I just really like TryHackMe and I wanted to spread the word and showcase some of what they got going on. But that's not what we're doing. Today we're doing this room that I stumbled upon called Brute It. It's free, so anyone can sign in and do it. Learn how to brute hash cracking and escalate privileges in this box, and it's an easy difficulty. So if you've never done any type of probably brute forcing with Hydra, maybe John the Ripper or Hashcat, or you're kind of rusty, this might be a good room. I haven't looked at it, I don't know, but I do have it loaded up, ready to go. So we're going to grab this IP address and we can look at this first task here. So about this box. So you'll learn brute forcing, hash cracking, and privilege escalation, connect to the TryHackMe network and deploy the machine. So the way I'm accessed is I like to use the VPN, the Open VPN through Kali Linux, but it works for other operating systems as well, Windows or Mac, or you can just use the dedicated attack box, the built-in browser VM if you want, but I prefer just using my own virtual machine. So let's look at this task. So before attacking, let's gather some information about the target. So it guides us and it prompts us with these different questions. So search for how many ports, what version of SSH, Apache, what version of Linux is running, and find any hidden directories on the web server. So we see here I have my own little directory created, YouTube, TryHackMe, Brute It. Let's do a quick Nmap scan, SV to look at the service versions, SC to run some default scripts, slam in that IP address, and then save the output into a file called nmapscan.txt. You can hit V to increase the verbosity and it'll print out more usage information or just like more stats on how it's running, what's going on, what it's finding. And while that runs, I also like to put the IP address in a browser to pull up any kind of web page if there is a web service running. And there is. On port 80, we have the default Apache 2 Ubuntu page, and we can scroll down. So anytime you run the Apache service, you can get this default landing page. Nothing exciting. We can hit Control U and look at the source code. Sometimes they like to put credentials here, or like hidden directories. But I don't see anything here. While we're here, we can also look at the robots.txt file. All right, there just doesn't happen to be one on the server, but we do get an error page and it does leak a little bit of information. It tells us what version of Apache this is. It's an Ubuntu server, and we already knew the IP address and port, so that's nothing interesting. I believe one of the questions asked us what version of Apache it is, so we can slam that in there. So we know SSH is running. We know the distribution is Ubuntu, and there's some type of hidden directory. We can just look and we can guess. Maybe it's admin. It is. Cool. That was a complete shot in the dark. So there is this login page. Maybe that was pretty easy to guess. There would be an admin panel if this challenge is all about brute forcing and finding your way into this machine. Okay, I like to just out of habit hit Control U. So we see the source code here. It links to the CSS, the style sheet, so how it actually gets the format and the color. There's usually nothing cool in the CSS file. See this The login form. Oh, cool. So there's this comment. Hey, John, if you don't remember, the username is admin. So that's awesome. So if we're going to brute force this page, we're just going to throw a bunch of usernames because we don't know who the correct user is. But here we see that there's probably two users. There's a John and there's an admin user. So we have 50% of the puzzle complete. We know the username, and all we have to do is guess the password. I'm just going to type in password, and that's not correct. So we'll put a pin in this for now. We'll make note of that, and we'll come back to it later on. Let's wrap up this section. Our Nmap scan should be done by now. Yeah, it is. So we see here, usually it tells you how many ports are open. Scanning 2 services, 1 IP address up. Okay, I thought it would say like, oh, we found 2 ports or we found 2 services. But so we see here, port 22, SSH. Since we added that TAC C, it did run some certain scripts. And you can find those scripts in the user share nmap directory scripts. These are all the different possible scripts that the nmap tool can run against certain services. It'll run some by default, or you can specify exactly what you want. Let's look at that nmap scan. So we see SSH, we have the version number right here. We know that's one question, and we're already peeked this web page, so there's nothing really that the scan is telling us that we don't already know. But right here, it is saying the version number as well as the type of operating system it is. Linux, Ubuntu, nice. So we can slam in the version number there, and there's only 2 ports running. So we completed this task. Let's move on to task 3. Getting a shell. So find a form to get a shell on SSH. So what is the user password of the admin panel? Crack the RSA key. What's John's RSA private key? And then there's a user text flag, and there's like a web flag. If we want, we can pick out the hint. Use Hydra to brute force it. Okay, I figured we are going down that route. Use John the Ripper to crack the private key. So we're not there yet. So let's come here. We could use Burp Suite. Burp Suite here. Where's it at? Web app analysis, Burp Suite. So Burp Suite is a great tool. It's a great framework for web hacking, web security research. However, on the free version, you cannot do any type of multi-threading. So when you try to brute force passwords, here, let me not spoil it. Let's start it up. Actually, no, I will spoil it. Let's close out of this. So the free version, the community edition, it does not have any type of multi-threading. So when we try to slam this login page with different passwords, because we are going to provide it a word list of different passwords. Type in the word list command. It'll print you in this directory. You can unzip, gunzip, rock you. Yeah. So these are different word lists that come pre-installed in Kali Linux. Parrot OS has a very similar one. And they just have different passwords, different usernames, different creds, different combinations that we can throw at this service, at this login panel. A very popular one is called RockU. If we peek at it, it has a lot of lines in it. So maybe we don't want to use RockU off bat. Maybe we want to use Fast Track. We can just peek at a couple of those. So these are some passwords. If we look at a couple passwords in RockU, so these are very common passwords that people use. If we use a tool like Burp Suite, the free edition, it's going to do one at a time, which is super slow, especially if the password is like the 14th millionth entry in the file and it's starting at the top and it's just going one by one. We're going to be here all day. That's not good. That's no bueno. So instead, we want to use a tool called Hydra, or I guess you could use its like counterpart, its sibling Medusa. And these are just different brute force tools, different network password cracking tools. So if we want to begin building this, we do Hydra, tech L for the username, tech P for the password file. Let's do rocku, HTTP post form. And now we need to do some tricks. We need to come over here. We need to open up the networking tab, make that a little bit easier to read. Reload the page, that's fine. And now we just slam in some creds. They don't need to be correct. Don't save. And then we see right here, I don't know if I can make that any bigger. There we go. There we go. We see this post request. So two very common requests are get, hey, let me access this web page, and post, let me send data to the web page. So we did a post request. Come over here, click on request. So we sent this username and password to the login panel. If you click on raw, it'll give you this nice one-line syntax. And this is important because Hydra, it doesn't know what those parameters are. Like, this is pretty simple. It says user equals blank and pass equals whatever. But what if it was username and password? So Hydra doesn't know what these fields are. Another way you could have looked at it is opening up the HTML, the actual source code, and we see them here. User and pass. So these are the names being provided to like these fields. Hopefully that makes sense. I just like doing it like this, opening up the debugging tools, like the command line tools or whatever this is called, this interface, sending some type of dummy request, sending some type of bogus request, and then you have that syntax you need right there. So grab that. So the page is /admin. That's the first field, what page you're on. So we're on /admin. The next field is the HTTP parameters that you need. And then the last one is the error code. And the error code here is username or password invalid. Fail equals that. Hopefully that syntax is correct. And we need to put in the IP address somewhere. Let's put it there. See if it likes this. Hit enter. Oh, I did not. So I have these hard coded. I don't want these hard coded. I want to use these, the shorthand, this like syntax, these variables. So pass and user. So that's a good start. We can also throw in tag VV for verbosity. Let me double check the man page for Hydra real quick. I want to tell it to stop as soon as you find the password that matches. I think it's tech F. Tech F. Exit after the first found login password pair. Yeah. See if it likes that. Okay, cool. So it's trying all these. I thought I could have it actually print out the combinations it's trying, but it found it. It found the username is admin and the password is 123456. What line is that in Iraqu? Is that like the very beginning? Oops. How do you find the line number? Is it M? I don't think it's M. There's a way to find like the exact line number. Oh, geez. Making a mess. There you go. So 123456 occurs a lot of times, and that's why it just spams the terminal like this. So I did N to print, hey, what line number in the file contains this? M for find the first occurrence. So let's see if this is the password. It is the very first line in rocku.txt. Admin 12345 6. That's incorrect. So we're doing something wrong. And it might be in our string at the end, this fail condition. Let me take out the F equals and just leave it like that. Does that make it any better? Any worse? Because when you run Hydra, it's going to check for essentially a change in the state of the web page. So if we come to this page originally, okay, it's like cached. So let me see. Okay. So normally the web page looks like this, and then you enter in like the username and password, you hit enter, and then the state of the page is changed. Now it has username or password invalid. And that's how Hydra will know, hey, the state, it normally looks like this. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say when we log in, when we get the correct password with Hydra, we won't be on this landing page. We're going to be redirected somewhere else. So we want to tell Hydra that. So before I had this as an F. I had the fail condition being that, but I think I want it to be S for the success condition. Maybe I'm completely in the wrong here. That's always the tidbit, that's always the piece of the puzzle that kind of throws me off with using Hydra specifically. Page redirected. Let's let this ride and see what it comes up with. If we want to be like extra cheeky, we can kind of look at these asterisks right here. We know the username is admin and the password is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 letters long. So we could filter out rocku.txt and only like include passwords that are 6 characters long, so it's not trying a bunch of stuff. That probably would have been the smarter approach. I don't know, a quick, simple bash one liner to only get 6 character passwords. This also printed out 7 when it's actually 6. I think because there's like a new line character that is counting. But yeah, we could probably do some type of bash script, loop through everything in rocku, run board context C, and if it's not 7 or 6 characters, whatever, trim it, cut it out, remove it. So that way we only have a list of 6 character passwords in our word list that we throw at this. But I did not do any of that. Here, let's kill this. The capital V. Okay, so capital V instead of the 2 little v's, it'll print out the actual password that it's trying, the actual username password combination. So that's what I wanted originally. So now we can actually see everything that it's trying. So this is an actual brute force attempt. I guess it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. You don't want to do this against like publicly facing infrastructure. We're doing this in like this lab and this VM and this TryHackMe challenge. You wouldn't want to do this against actual public facing websites or public facing services, but people do it anyway. So you see how these characters are more than like 6, or maybe they're only like 4 or 5 letters long. We can trim the file and make it so there's only 6 characters exactly, and then throw that against it. Or we could make our own word list with a tool like Crunch word list generator. Oh, is it installed in Kali by default? So generate, let me make this easier to read for you guys. Generate a dictionary file containing a word with minimum and max. So in this example, coincidentally, it's 6 characters. Do I have that binary installed? Crunch. Oh, cool. It's already like installed. Let me go to our working directory, YouTube, like me, crunch 6 6. We want all letters, and then we want the whole alphabet. So I'm gonna type this out. MNOPQRSTUVWXYZ. Save that as 6. Cares that text. Hopefully it's saving it to a file and it's not just printing it to the terminal. That'd be kind of ugly. So our screen looks completely disgusting. Maybe I'm passing in. I still feel like I'm doing something wrong with this end right here. I don't know if I want this to be S for success or F for failure. I feel like it should have found it by now. Let's come here, look at the source code for this. Yeah, what do you guys think? Maybe I'll just leave it like this with no letter. Oh, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that correct? I don't know. Can we log in with that? Admin, spelled it wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Negative. Why is it giving us these false positives? What am I telling it that makes you want to lie to me like this? Yeah, every time it's giving us something different. It has to be that fail condition at the end. There's something there's something I'm doing wrong about it. Let's look up the man page for Hydra. HTTP post form. Post form. Jeez. Okay, so I couldn't find it in the man page. Let's look on Google. I'm almost positive it's something I'm just miscalculating. It's something I'm not seeing. Control F post form. Okay, let's see some examples. We can specify a failure string with F equals my string here. We can specify a success string this, but we may also only see my string and it'll be the equivalent of the failure string. So I feel like we're doing that part correctly. So they have very similar to us, Hydra Tech L with admin, P, and then their word list. They are doing HTTP and then the host name or the IP address. Post form. So that's good. We're doing our parameters. Yeah, it all looks the same. Let's see. The only other thing I can think of is to take out the slash and just leave it like that. No, it wants the slash. All right, everyone. I did some toiling, and I believe the issue is this. So we see how there's like two slashes here, one in the beginning and one at the end. It encases the word admin. When I go back here, I have this beginning slash. I don't have a trailing slash, and that's the only other thing I can see that's like different. Even if I'm like, maybe it's this like string I'm providing, but it's right. It's like literally there in the source code of the website. So the failure string is correct. So if we break this down again, we have the username admin. The password is something from RockU. The verbose mode, show me exactly what you're sending to the server. Stop as soon as you get the correct password, the IP address, the post form, and I believe we want this in two slashes because that's how it is on the website. We have the HTTP post parameters that are being sent, the username and the password with our variables, and then we have the failure string. So fingers crossed this works because we've been toiling at this for a while now. So it's running through all these password pairs, all these creds. It's trying. Oh, there. It came back with a result. Something different than last time. Xavier. So I think that was it. That's why I don't love Hydra. I mean, I guess it is user error, but why does that versus this, like, this versus getting rid of that slash, why does it cause so much issue and like toil? Because we were grinding on that for a while. Xavier. There we go. So attention to detail. It's pretty important. Admin Xavier. Don't save. Cool, we get our flag. Yum. Is that this? Web flag? Nice. Come back to the admin panel. Hello, John. Finish the development of the site. Here's your RSA private key. So an RSA private key, I don't know if they have more purposes than this, but they're typically used. Uh, oh, I don't want to be here. RSA private keys are used for SSH authentication. So instead of having a password, you can just use the key. I don't know if they're used for any other purposes than that, to be honest. So this is what they look like. Begin RSA private key. It's not something you typically want to share. It's something only you should have access to. So for them just to put it on this like login page on this web server for anyone who accesses it to download, not good. Not bueno. So what can we do with this private key? We know that it's John's private key. So we can try, not Jason. We can try to just log in with him because we don't have his password, right? It's going to ask us for a password. We don't know what it is. But if we do attack I to specify the private key, we can log in that way. However, it does warn us, hey, there's bad permissions. The permissions are 0644. So if we look at it with LSACL, 6 means read and write, 4 is read. So the permissions are too open. So let's change that to just 600. Now let's try to log in. Better, we don't get that warning banner, but what we do get is enter the passphrase. What? We don't have his passphrase. We can try Xavier, see if there's password reuse, and there's not. So how can we take this ID RSA key and turn it into some type of a hash that we can crack? Well, I'm glad you asked because we have a bunch of stuff in user share John that will translate some type of data into a hash that John the Ripper can use. So we see, what's a good one? We see Mozilla to John, probably for like Mozilla WordPress. We see PCAP to John, Kirby to John for Kerberos tickets, so on and so forth. So they might have like an RSA to John. No. Is there like SSH to John? Yeah. So SSH to John and then the private key. It's going to print out this value. We see IDRSA is the name of the file, and then SSH and G, and then the actual hash. So let's redirect this to a file. Let's call it for John. And now let's run John the Ripper against it. I'm saying the word John a lot. I also noticed the username John is probably like a hint to use this tool called John the Ripper. So John the Ripper has a built-in word list. We can look at it here. It does not have a lot of lines, especially compared to like RockU. Right, we see RockU has like, what, 14 million? So whenever you see John and it says proceeding to incremental ASCII, that means it exhausted everything in the word list, and it's just going to try to brute force. So let's specify word list. RockU worked before for the Hydra, like web panel. So let's try it again for this. And we get the password is rockin' roll. Grab that, slam it in. Now when we try to SSH, we provide that as the passphrase. And we're on the server. We get the welcome banner, welcome to Ubuntu 18.04. We get some stats about the system. So we can do a little bit of enumeration. Oh, we are in the sudo group. So they should be able to run commands as sudo. So as the root user, I don't need a password to run bin cat. So that's interesting. Maybe we'll come back to that a little later. We can look at the bash history. Sometimes it's like neat and there's like passwords or there's like other commands that we might need in here. So we see that they did switch user to root. They created a key. So I don't see any passwords. They stood up a simple server in Python. So let's cat out the user flag. A password is not a barrier. I guess that's like just saying just because something is password protected doesn't mean it's secure, especially if the password is pretty weak. So find a form to escalate your privileges. What is the root user's password? And then it wants us to get root flag. So we can run cat as sudo. So sudo bin cat. We can just print out root.txt. And that's how we can escalate privileges there. I don't know if there's a way to get a shell. We can open it up in GTFO bins. Let me close out some of these tabs. GTFO bins. My initial thought is we can just cat out Etsy password. That's word readable. And we can also just cat out Etsy shadow, and we can get the password hash of root, and then we can just combine those with unshadow and then crack it with John the Ripper. I think that's the route we're gonna need to go down. So it's SCP. Need the IP address. Let's grab SC passwd and put it here. Passphrase. I'm just gonna copy and paste it. All right, cool. So we have passwd, but we can't do that for Etsy shadow because we're gonna get a permission denied. Yeah, permission denied. So what we can do is just cat out Etsy shadow and then just copy it like this. Yoink. Vim Shadow. Slam that in there. It looks kind of ugly. Slam that in, and there is a command called unshadow. Tells us we need the password file and the shadow file. Let's pipe that into unshadow.txt. Now we can run John the Ripper against this. User, share, word lists. I wish this had tab complete. Oh, it does. Shadow, hit enter, and we get the password is football. So none of these passwords are very complex. They're pretty simple, and we're able to crack it with just like one word list. My computer's starting to freeze up. Scroll down, slam in football as the password, hit enter, and we solved it. So that was a doozy. Not too bad of a challenge, but I did get hung up. I did get like a roadblock with Hydra and the correct syntax there. So thanks for bearing with me there on that part. It is kind of frustrating. It is kind of lame. All because I didn't add that extra backslash at the end. It kind of completely threw off the program. It was giving us a bunch of false positives. And we had to just keep rerunning it a bunch of times. So since I have this pulled up, if you're not familiar, GTF Opens is a great tool. It's a great resource. So if you have like a binary like we did, a cat that has additional privileges, you can see what can you do with that. So if we have cat, yes, you can read. You can read files, right? It prints stuff to the terminal. Oh, that's really it. You can't really get a shell. I guess you can write with files, but cat here or there. But anyway, that's how I solved it. Pretty straightforward challenge. If you are curious about how to do any like brute forcing or using John the Ripper or Hydra, this isn't a bad room to check out. Once again, they also have the advent of cyber going on, so be sure to knock out a couple challenges in there, get some raffle tickets, and perhaps win some sweet prizes for the holidays. So yeah, there we go. So there you have it, folks. Let me know in the comments below how you solved this, any tips, any tricks. I'd love to hear them. As always, take it easy and see you guys in the next video.